Jake had no idea his world was about to fall apart. That night, he had been invited to a surprise party in honor of a friend's promotion. His wife Emma had gone on ahead to help set things up. It was unsurprising, given her flair for theatrics and love of planning elaborate surprises. When she suggested he arrive to make a memorable entrance, he didn't think twice. He trusted her. There was no reason not to. But the moment he walked through the front door, something felt wrong. The atmosphere was lively, filled with music, laughter, and the buzz of conversation. Guests milled about, dressed smartly, drinks in hand, smiles on their faces. It should have felt familiar, comforting, but it didn't. Something was off. He searched the room for Emma, assuming she was caught up in preparations. But she wasn't behind the bar mixing drinks, and she wasn't chatting with guests. She was just gone. A faint ripple of unease stirred in his chest, subtle at first but growing with each moment. He couldn't find her. Everyone else seemed oblivious. They laughed, toasted, danced, but for Jake, the night was already beginning to twist into something darker. Then a woman he didn't know approached him. Her expression was strained, uncertain. She didn't speak at first, just looked at him with eyes that held something heavy, something she didn't want to carry alone. When she finally did speak, it was barely more than a whisper. "You should check the guest room upstairs." Her words hit like ice water. He didn't understand why, but some instinct deep inside him flared, pushing him toward the stairs with a growing sense of dread. His heart pounded as he climbed, one step at a time, the sounds of the party growing more distant with every footfall. He stood outside the guest room door for a long moment. The doorknob felt cold in his hand. He breathed in slowly, held it, and then pushed the door open. Time stopped. Emma. Is Emma. She was inside, wrapped in the arms of another man. Their faces were too close, their bodies too familiar. The shock froze Jake in place. Their eyes met, wide with guilt and panic. Not a word was spoken. The silence screamed louder than anything they could have said. Jake didn't yell. He didn't demand answers. He simply turned and walked away. Outside, the night air hit him like a slap, cold, sharp, but useless against the storm inside him. He moved through the rest of the evening as if in a trance, hearing voices but not listening, seeing faces but not recognizing them. Everything blurred into numbness. Betrayal echoed through him, relentless and raw. When Emma returned home later that night, Jake couldn't bring himself to speak. He didn't want her explanations. He didn't want to hear the excuses. He sat in silence, weighed down by the weight of it all. By morning she insisted they talk. They sat across from one another at the kitchen table, once a place of shared laughter and warmth, now cold and foreign. She was trembling, her eyes red, swollen with tears. His face, by contrast, was unreadable, calm on the surface but with fury simmering beneath. "I don't even know where to start," Emma said, her voice cracking. "But I need to try. Please just let me talk." Jake didn't answer. He lifted his coffee, took a slow sip, then placed the cup back down with a thud that made her flinch. "Speak," he said finally, his tone flat, sharp. "But know this, there's nothing you can say that will change how I feel right now." Emma nodded, her voice barely holding together. "It was a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. I don't want to lose you, Jake. I love you. I've always loved you." A bitter laugh escaped from him, dry and humorless. "Love?" he repeated, his eyes cold. "You call that love? Sneaking around behind my back? If that's your version of love, I want no part of it." Her composure cracked completely and the tears came fast. "You're right," she said through sobs. "I was wrong. So wrong. I felt disconnected from you. I thought maybe you didn't care anymore. I was scared. I let it get to me. I was weak." Jake's heart twisted hearing her, but his face remained unreadable. He looked at her, trying to find the woman he married in the person sitting across from him, but all he could see was a stranger. The silence stretched. He could walk away or he could stay and try to rebuild what had been broken. It was a decision that would define everything going forward. Emma reached for him, her hands shaking. "There's no one else doing this," she whispered. "But maybe there's still something left to fight for. I know I broke your trust, Jake, but I'm begging you. Give me one more chance. Let's try to fix this. Please." The room was silent again. All that remained was Jake, staring down at the pieces of a life he never thought would fall apart. Her eyes searched his, silently pleading for understanding, for forgiveness, for anything that might restore what they had lost. Jake stood abruptly, tension thick in the air. His entire body trembled, caught in a whirlwind of fury and sadness that churned just beneath the surface. He stepped away from her, trying to escape the suffocating weight of her betrayal. But then he turned back, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "What hurts the most, Emma," he said, his voice quivering under the emotional strain, "is that you were able to lie to me. How could you do this?" Each word he spoke cut deep, as though etching into the fragile remnants of their bond. "Our marriage was founded on trust," he continued, his voice soft yet strained. "And now that trust is gone. Without it there's nothing left. You can't build anything without trust, Emma." She sat still, tears silently streaming down her cheeks, each drop a reflection of the guilt that consumed her. Her heart cracked with every word he spoke, her sorrow apparent in her silence. She gazed into his eyes, desperately searching for the man she once knew, but all she found was a wall she could no longer breach. Even in the midst of his pain, something inside Jake softened for a brief moment, a flicker of the man who had once loved her. Part of him longed to comfort her, to wipe away her tears, but that tenderness was quickly extinguished by the harsh truth of her actions. His anger reignited, burning away any compassion. He leaned in, taking a shaky breath. "I don't even know what I feel for you anymore," he muttered, each word sounding as if it had been torn from him. "Love, anger, disappointment. I don't know. But what I do know is that I don't trust you. And without trust, nothing else matters." Emma was shattered. His words crushed her, the realization of the damage she had done settling in with the weight of a tidal wave. She could still see the pain in his eyes, but worse than that was the finality in his voice. The man she loved was slipping away, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Jake turned to leave, unable to endure any more. At the door he paused, his voice firm but tinged with exhaustion. "Give me time," he said, "but don't expect a miracle from me." When the door clicked shut behind him, silence poured into the room, heavy and suffocating. Jake sat alone, the past pressing down on him like a physical weight. A cold, forgotten cup of coffee sat on the table, a haunting symbol of the life they once shared. Now, everything felt distorted, like grasping at a dream that slipped through his fingers no matter how tightly he held on. Her tears, her desperate pleas, echoed in his mind, but they couldn't undo the damage she had caused. Her betrayal had left a wound deep within him, one that might never fully heal. His thoughts swirled, always returning to that night, to that choice, her choice, that had changed everything. He struggled to reconcile the truth. The love he once had for her could no longer survive the damage. The days that followed were clouded with numbness, the pain a constant companion. But eventually Jake realized he had to make a decision. He couldn't live in this limbo forever. He could either bury the pain and try to move forward, or he could start over on his own terms, free from the wreckage of what had been. One morning, after weeks of soul-searching, he stood before the mirror. The man looking back at him was hollow, aged by sorrow and weariness. He no longer recognized the person who had once loved with his whole heart. But as he stared deeper into his own reflection, he caught a glimpse of something, possibility. The faintest sense of strength. "I can't do this to myself anymore," he whispered to the reflection, the words barely audible but filled with quiet resolve. "I can't let this marriage destroy me." And just like that, a decision was made. He would have to face Emma again, not to argue, not to plead, but to end it once and for all. They sat again at the kitchen table, the same one that had once held their morning coffees, late-night talks, and countless shared dreams. But now it felt cold, the warmth long gone. Jake wasn't cruel, but his words were steady, unwavering. He had thought them through, and now there was only the truth. "Emma," he began slowly, "I've spent so many days thinking about all of this. The love I had for you, the trust we shared. And I've come to one conclusion: I can't stay in this marriage. Not without trust. And without trust, there's nothing left between us." Her eyes widened, desperation flickering briefly before fading into a quiet, resigned sadness. Her tears came again, softer now, not begging, just grieving. "I understand," she whispered, barely audible. "I know I've lost you. I know I can't fix this." Jake felt the weight of her sorrow in his chest. A pang of guilt, maybe even lingering love stirring. But it wasn't enough. Love couldn't hold them together anymore. It had been too deeply fractured. "I wish there was another way," he said gently, "but there isn't. I hope you find peace." And with that it was over. The end came not with shouting or fury, but with a quiet inevitability. The divorce was swift and clean, far more subdued than anyone had anticipated. Emma left the house and Jake stayed behind, though it no longer felt like his home. The walls seemed to close in, echoing with the ghosts of what once was. Time passed. Jake tried to reclaim his life. He laughed again, saw friends, slowly ventured back into the world. But the nights were the hardest. In the quiet, the memories would return, her face, the betrayal. It still haunted him. The pain never fully left, it hovered just beneath the surface. But even on the worst nights, Jake knew he had made the right decision. He had chosen to save himself. One day, while walking alone beneath a vast, empty sky, Jake spoke aloud to himself, as if reminding himself of something simple yet profound: life goes on and so will I. It wasn't the ending he had once dreamed of, but maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something new.